and welcome to the Talent LNK podcast in partnership with LincolnHR, where we talk all things talent and workforce. I am Kaylie Hogan-Schnittker, Director of Talent Strategy with the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development. Today, I'm joined in the AOI Podcast Studio with our guest, Lizzie Vietz or Vietz. I meant to ask you this before and I totally forgot. It's okay. But you are the Employer and Campus Relations Coordinator with the University of Lincoln, Nebraska, or, oh my gosh, I say this every time, the University of Nebraska-Lincoln's Career Services. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm excited to have you.
Thanks for having me.
This is your inaugural podcast.
My first podcast.
Well,
I'm so excited.
I'm excited that you're here with us and that we get to do that together. So Career Services is helping our young emerging talent kind of navigate their career journeys. So I want to definitely dig into a little bit about that, but I would love to know about your career journey so far. So what have you done and what led you to work at the Career Center?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a proud alum of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and actually during my undergraduate career, I worked in the Career Services office.
Oh, perfect.
Which is amazing. So I was one of our peer career guides, something that exists now in our colleges, not so much in the University Career Services office anymore, but it was a really great opportunity to just kind of learn basic career development skills, kind of network with students, help them through their resume reviews, cover letters, strategizing internships and job searches and all of that good stuff. So that was a really fun job I had in my undergrad. And then after graduation, I was the Assistant Director of Marketing and Communications at a Boys and Girls Club in Lawrence, Kansas.
Oh, wow.
And then came back to Lincoln and got this role, which I'm very excited about. Great way to reconnect with the Lincoln community in an employer relations function. So I'm excited to be here.
A total boomerang.
Yes,
I love that.
Absolutely. Lincoln just was calling us back.
Yeah.
So,
you're not our first podcast guest who have moved away and come back, which is really exciting. Yeah. Other than the job, why'd you come back?
Lincoln's just always been home. Okay. You know, it's where my husband and I met. It's where we got married. He was getting his master's in chemistry in Kansas, and so that's why we moved down south for a little bit.
Yes.
But then we just thought, you know what? Where do we want to be for the rest of our lives? It's Lincoln.
Oh, well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, you heard it here first. Lincoln is the place to be.
That's right.
So I guess give us a 10,000-foot view of what Career Services does and how you are supporting students.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a decentralized career services structure at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. We have our office of University Career Services, which is very small. We're a small but mighty team of 4 people, and we focus on the 10,000-foot view, the university-wide efforts, whether that's career fairs. We have those twice a year in September and February, or other like small university-wide events that happen, and also Handshake, like managing that platform, onboarding employers, and getting students on the platform so that they can apply for jobs and find those internships, find events, all of that good stuff. But then we have career coaches in every single college on campus. Okay. So in the building that students usually go to most of their classes in, they have a career coach housed in that building that they can schedule an appointment with, or sometimes walk in for the resume reviews, similar to what I did as a peer career guide, right? But on a much more expertise professional level, making those connections and having those one-on-one professional development conversations with students. So those teams range in sizes based on the enrollment of the college. So like College of Business, you can imagine, has a very strong and mighty team.
Yes, I do.
College of Journalism, the college I'm an alum of, has a team of 1, small but mighty. So they kind of range in size and structure, but we're really glad to be able to provide that professional, like one-on-one expert in the colleges.
Yeah. And this may not be fair to ask you this question, but do you know how many students you serve during a semester or during the school year?
Ideally, every single one.
Okay.
We during our new student enrollment presentations, we tell parents and students, meet with your career coach early and often. So I don't have the number off the top of my head, but ideally it would be every single student that walks through UNL's doors gets a personalized meeting with that career coach.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I graduated from university 10 years ago.
Cool.
This June. Wild. Back when we graduated in June, but just thinking about the way career services has changed and just serves the student differently is really cool. And I'm glad that they're having that experience and that, you all are learning as the new generation comes in. And I know COVID probably accelerated a lot of that.
Yes, a lot of the meetings are virtual, to be sure. That's definitely an option that I don't think is ever going away, which is great because then it means that a student has even less barriers to making that meeting with their career coach. So
yeah, absolutely. What are you seeing students most interested in when it comes to opportunities like they're searching for?
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple things that come to mind. I would say that the number one is really flexibility that I see. Students are looking for the hybrid role that offers them the flexibility to be remote when they want to be, but also be in the office when they want to be to make those connections. I think there's kind of a misconception that this technically raised generation is only ever wanting completely remote roles, and that's not the case, and it might vary by individual, but we're seeing the flexibility is really important to them. Of course, a strong benefits package is also really important. I think gone are the days where a pool table in the office or free food or whatever is a part of a strong benefits package. They really want the insurance and everything to kind of provide them that stability, and of course fair compensation as well. Like I said, the pool table and the free food are not going to replace paying your workers equitably and adequate compensation. So I think that's really important to them as well. And then lastly, I would say a really purpose-driven career is top of mind for this new generation of students, but they also are very cognizant of burnout. So it's interesting to see them navigate I really want to go into this nonprofit or this government agency or something like that, but I don't want to burn out in the process. And so just kind of figuring out what that looks like. Maybe that looks like a corporate employer that has a really great social responsibility policy or something like that. So those are, I think, the things that are maybe top of mind for
that's really interesting. Yeah. And I appreciate how the youth are bringing that kind of perspective to the workforce. But
definitely,
are they having experiences within nonprofits and seeing that kind of burnout, or how are they gauging what burnout looks like and how do they figure out an employee, Yeah. You know what I'm asking?
I do, yeah. I think they really carefully look at the job description and are much more quick to say, that's not within my role, I'm not going to stay past 5, or just kind of setting those boundaries that have been so hard for maybe previous generations to set, or maybe not setting those boundaries for previous generations led to oh, well, you stayed after 5, so it means that, you're first in line for the promotion or the manager role or something like that. That's not as important to this generation, I think. And maybe, like I said, it's all individual. So maybe somebody could correct me and say, nope, I'm going to hustle and do everything that I need to do to, climb the ladder. But I think setting those boundaries and that work-life balance, they're very cognizant of, and they're quicker to do.
Yeah, that's that's an interesting perspective and one I definitely appreciate.
Yeah.
I want to back up in your comment about the hybrid work or working in person. And I found it really interesting that even though our interns here are only here part-time, they definitely prefer to work here. We've, I have definitely allowed, especially during the school year, those challenging weeks or midterms or finals, if you need to kind of do something more hybrid, that's totally welcome. But for the most part, I'm told no.
Yeah.
But I also think our culture here is very friendly, and it's a smaller office, which helps.
Absolutely.
So, but I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I met some Huddle interns last week at one of our intern networking events, and they are from all across the country, and they are here in person. And housing was a big factor in why they chose to come and be here. As far as internships go, do you see interns looking for benefits like housing, packages or support?
Definitely. I would say that it's really common for students to look for like opportunities at a college over the summer, because then usually that college provides them with the housing. So I think, the benefits are, the definition of what a comprehensive benefits package is not necessarily just insurance or days off or sick leave or things like that. It's expanding, and we're seeing students get more creative with what they're interested in for those benefits, like housing, like stipends, maybe, having their Ubers into work be reimbursed or something like that. So get creative with, if you're noticing a barrier to your student applying for that internship or getting into work, get creative with what you can offer them to make it a little bit easier for them.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, that's a creative way employers can kind of market and attract themselves. What are some creative ways that you work with businesses locally to kind of engage with students?
Yeah, so the first way I would say is not super creative, but definitely like you got to get on Handshake. That is the primary platform that I work with it day in and day out to onboard employers to. So if it feels big and scary, reach out to me. We'll figure it out together. So definitely get on there, because you can register for our career fairs on Handshake. When you post jobs and register for career fair, you can attach the jobs to the career fair. So students see the list of employers and then immediately know who they're hiring for.
Yeah.
So it's an extra motivation for them to get to the career fair and meet with your representatives in person. So I would say start with Handshake.
Absolutely.
But there are definitely lots of creative ways that employers are engaging with our office. We had an employer on East Campus do like an entire takeover day, which was really cool. So they came out, they spent the whole day on campus in varying locations. They started with like breakfast and coffee somewhere in like a building that students were going to classes in, moved for a hosted lunch, had like mini golf greens out on campus that they were like catching students on their way to classes and everything, which was really smart. So it was really nice and like informal, low barrier ways to just like get their name and their faces out in front of students. And then I think they moved somewhere else even for dinner. So you don't have to spend an entire day on campus, but something really unique. Like we didn't necessarily have like a structure for that before, but they came and asked and we made it happen. Or I should say our East Campus team really made that day happen. But we've also had employers engage completely virtually if that's more attainable for an employer. Like we had an East Coast employer to host a completely virtual session where it was attracted to data science students, marketed to them, where they could like spend an entire day on Zoom, which I know doesn't sound great, but they completed a data science project that would be something they would do if they were working at this employer, like an internship
so something
or
kind
something.
of hands-on.
And at the end of the day, they earned a credential that they could put on their resume, which was great. And it kind of just gave them a day in the life view, gave them that hard technical skill that they then got to put on their resume, and kind of helped them get more familiar with what that employer could be doing. They weren't able to have their regular internship program over the summer, so this was a really great and creative pivot on their part, I think, to kind of engage students in a different way and then also give them something in return. So that's another great way to do it. You can also host virtual event sessions on Handshake as well. So it all comes back to Handshake, I think.
Oh, wow. Well, that's great.
Yeah, but definitely like reach out to our office. Like I'm hesitant to say sky's the limit because, obviously there are limits, but kind of sky's the limit, reach out to us and we'll see what we can do to make it happen. So.
All right. Well, that's really awesome. Well, thank you again for being here today. I'm out of questions for you. Is there any last thoughts that you have for businesses as they're thinking about engaging with college grads?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say just get on campus with us. Kind of like I said for the last question, just reach out to us and we'll make it happen. We have really, really healthy career fairs at UNL. We're seeing some other colleges kind of say, oh, well, the career fair is dead. That's not the case for UNL. We have really healthy career fair attendance, both on the employer and student side. We have a couple other events that, if we reach out to you and want to get you on campus, we'd love to have you. Like, please say yes, please come. Whether it's being a panelist for a niche event that's maybe a more informal connection with students. We have lots of those throughout the semester, so definitely engage in that way. I also run Husker Circle, which is an employer partnership program. We just closed enrollment for this year.
That's okay.
It's like April through May, and benefits will start with the academic year, so July 1 through June 30th of next year. But we have a really healthy list of employers that are just interested in increasing their brand awareness and strengthening their recruiting relationship with the university. So that's a really great way to get involved, whether you're, Lincoln-based employer that has a really good relationship with the university already, strengthen it even more, or if you're just looking to get started, there's no limit on the size or history of the business that can get involved with Husker Circle too. So reach out. There's lots of ways to get involved.
Yeah, it sounds like there's so many ways and a lot of really creative ways businesses have engaged, which I always appreciate learning more about that. And I know our peer businesses and HR folks will also enjoy hearing about those examples. So
it's also really easy to convince me to go out for a coffee meeting or anything like that too. So
it is.
Just know that's
she'll go to lunch.
Yes, go to lunch. Always happy to do it. And so yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for being here. It was so great to hear about all the work that Career Services does in your office, but also throughout the other colleges. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.